Hooty hoo, graceful crew, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are going to do our first canning video, and we're going to can up some chicken breast. Generally, colloquially, if you can say that word, which is difficult for me, colloquially, it is called ugly chicken. You'll see at the end why it's called ugly chicken. Anyway, I've already cut up our chicken. This is about 9 pounds of chicken breast. The reason I can chicken, there's a couple reasons. I use it in soups and stews and all kinds of things for Pete and I, but I also use it to make Oscar's dog food. So I make his dog food every week, and so I use a jar of dog food per. Since this is our first canning video, we're going to go through some of the basics. And let's see where to start. Okay, so first of all, I have to say, forgive my appearance. I am at home this week. I'm off this week. Pete had an ankle replacement surgery, so he's stuck upstairs, so he may holler for me at some point. But he's been doing very well. When I had my knee replaced, I must have been a sissy, because the second and third day I was crying and I was in so much pain, and he's done very well. He says his pain has been staying between like a 2 and a 5, so that's pretty amazing. He's non-bearing for 2 weeks, so that's been fun, hauling myself up and down the stairs. Anyway, so I just put on some jammies today. I got a haircut a couple weeks ago. It's very short. Not sure I like it yet. And I got new glasses today. Yay me. Pete helped me pick them out because I am so blind. I can't even like take off glasses and put them on to like see what I look like. That's how blind I am. So anyway, I already cut up my chicken in about 1-inch cubes. So I just took the chicken breast and cut it into 1-inch cubes. I washed my jars. It used to be that you had to sanitize your canning jars. The USDA no longer calls for you to sanitize them if you're pressure cooking. I believe if you're water bath canning, I'll have to look that up, but if you're water bath canning, you will need to sanitize them. Maybe I should start there. There's 2 types of canning. There's pressure canning and water bath canning, or steam canning. Water bath and steam are the same thing. I personally steam bath. Pressure canning is used for low acidic foods. So chicken breast obviously is a low acidic food, so it must be pressure canned according to the USDA. I know there's Amish methods and things like that, but I have not delved into any of that. There are plenty of Amish YouTube channels out there, so you can go dig into that. But for our purposes, we are going to be pressure canning. You can water bath anything that has a high acidity level, so tomatoes, pickles, obviously pickles of any sort, because you're adding tons of vinegar to the brine. I'm saying a lot today, please forgive me. It's been a rough few days. So anyway, the first thing we do after we prep our station, so we have our chicken here, we have our jars ready to go, I have my lids ready to go, and I have my rings ready to go. I have not pulled out my canner yet because it takes some time to load the jars, but we'll do that shortly. So enough of me chattering on and on. Let's go ahead and show you how to fill the jars. Let me see if I can move you guys closer so you can actually see how to fill them. Okay, so this looks good. All right, so jar, clean, fresh jar. You want to make sure, that you run, while you're washing, you run your finger along the edge, because you don't want to go through all this work to have a jar not seal. And if you have any cracks, anything along this edge, it needs to be smooth. If you have any cracks, they will not seal. And maybe even worse, you may have some leaking and things like that. So, okay, you guys can see. Let's get this going. This is pretty simple. That's why I started with this. I think canning chicken is probably the second easiest thing to can. The number one for me is beans, because you can, even though the USDA doesn't recommend it, you can just add dry beans to a jar with some water and can them. Sorry if you hear that noise. Pete's actually hopping to the restroom. So, okay, let's get this going. So, I've washed my hands, obviously. And we just take our chicken. They're in little, like, 1-inch cubes. Excuse me. And we just fill our jars. So easy peasy. And you have meat on the shelf. They say generally to not eat meat if it's been canned for over 5 years, but I think people have. So you just want to kind of tap it down in the bottom. We're going to pack it in there pretty tight once we get it filled. But each time that you put some in, I try to just use one hand so that, you know, you keep your other hand clean. I guess you could use gloves if you'd like to. I've never bothered. All right. Now, let me show you where you want this jar to be. Now, there are other things that you can, many other things, that there's a couple other steps that you need to do, and we'll go over that next time when we can those. But especially if you have any kind of liquid in your jar, you have to use a debubbler of some sort. It could be a chopstick, it could be a debubbler you buy that is precisely for that purpose. But you need to make sure that when you have a liquid jar, you need to make sure to get all the air bubbles out. For canning any kind of raw packed meat, you do not want to add any liquid in here. Especially chicken is going to create plenty of its own juices. And so you don't want to put any extra liquid in there. You want to pull the juices out of the chicken. So, and I use that juice, actually. I use that broth. The other thing that you have to remember, it's okay that there's holes down here, that it'll shrink, of course. The other thing you have to remember is you want to make sure not to fill the jar too full. Often the recommendation is 1 inch. For chicken, I keep it to right at this level. You see where it kind of, all the jars have them. Do you see where it bevels? So like right here, that's where I stop my fill, because I don't want things siphoning out. So right here, so as it curves up, that's where you want to fill it to. Okay, now before I fill all the rest of these, well, let's do a second one. All right, so just like we did with the first one, we're gonna pack them down a little bit as we fill it. I'm hoping this will get 9 jars. I did wash more than that just in case. My canner only holds 9 jars. Maybe someday I'll get a double stack canner, but it's just Pete and I, and so there's not really a point to do that. Anyway, as you fill it, you want to kind of try to get some of those air holes out that I was showing you. You'll never get all of them out, but you want to try to get as much out as you can as you're packing it. See, now in this case, see how that comes up over the bevel, the line right here? Too much. I need to take some of that out. So I take a piece out, I rearrange and pack it down in there. It is very squishy. And there you go. So I only had to take one piece out to get it up to that edge. Okay, so now I'm not going to pack the rest of them on camera. I'm going to show you what the next step is. So let me wash my hands. Okay, the next step. There are a couple things, like I was talking about, that can cause your jar not to seal. One of them is if you have felt the top here, which I always do as I'm washing the jars, but it's good to feel them again. One of them is if you have any kind of cracks or nicks in the top. The other thing is if you have any debris. As we were loading these jars, or packing the jars is what they generally call it, we certainly got some chicken fat on here, some of the chicken juices, and so I can feel it, it's kind of sticky. So we have to make sure that we clean that off. You can do it several ways. Some people do it just with like a little bowl of hot water and a towel, like a tea towel. I have always done it with a paper towel that I just fold up into a square, and some white vinegar. That's it. You can use any kind of vinegar. This is just regular Great Value brand of vinegar. So you just douse your paper towel with some, and you're just going to wipe around the edge. Of course, careful, I mean, it doesn't really matter too much, but careful not to get the vinegar inside the jar. But you're just going to really clean the top and like around the rim of that jar. Make sure that you get any debris off of there. Okay, next step then is our lids. So this brand is just an off brand that I bought because, and they've worked really well. They're cheaper than the brand I really like, which is 4 jars. But these have worked really well actually. I bought the cheaper ones because I use this chicken once a week. So there's no reason to use more expensive lids that are, you know, when they, I guess, keep on the shelf longer when I'm just opening these, you know, once a week. Okay, so you just put your lids on there. Your rings. This is very important. When you put your rings on, you don't want them tight. You see how my hand just kind of flips it? You want it a little tighter than that, but what I do is I flip it and then just one more little scooch. You don't want to tighten these down, because if you do, number one, it may not seal. Number two, there's no way to get the air out if you have it too tight. And that's what you're doing when you're canning. You're getting all the bacteria, the bad bacteria is out of here, and because you're heating it up to that pressure, and you need to let the air escape, because if there's air in here, it will, of course, decay. So you have to keep it in a sealed environment. If you tighten it too tight, that air can't get out. So you just want to put it on to where you feel resistance, and then just a scooch more. Okay, let's grab another. And once again, till you feel resistance, see that? And then a scooch more. Okay. All right, I'm going to fill the rest of these jars and get my canner out and show you how all that goes. See you back in a minute. Okay, we're back. We've got all of our jars filled. It gave us 8 jars. So 9 pounds gave us 8 jars. And I got my canner out. So we're gonna do the next step. So this is a Presto pressure canner. There's, as far as I know, there's 2 brands. There's a Presto and an All-American. All-Americans are rather expensive. Presto is more doable for most people. And it works very well. I've had for at least 5 years and haven't had any trouble. So, and I've never had to replace the ring. I'll talk about the ring in a second. The first thing we're going to do is, you have to have a couple things. In the bottom is a rack. You never, ever, ever want to put your jars just directly on in the pot. You always must, not just want, you must have the rack in there. Okay. Next thing, we're going to fill with 3 quarts of water. So what I do is I just grab, and you're not going to be drinking this water or anything. It doesn't have to be anything special. Let me get this cord out of the way. All right, so because I forgot to mention, because we are raw packed, this is cold. We want cold water, room temperature water. The point is you don't want hot water. So we're going to fill with 3 quarts. I just use a canning jar. I'm going to do 3 quarts full. Some people mark the inside of their canner to know where to fill the line, and every canner, from my understanding, every canner is different. So you want to always make sure you read the instructions on your canner. Okay. We've got our water, we've got our rack. It's hard to remember to look up there instead of, I have the computer right here. All right, next is we're gonna talk about our lid. Every time you can, there's a few things that you want to do. I'm worn out, folks. I'm gonna sit on this little stool. There's a couple things you wanna do. You see in here is your gasket. Okay, so it's just a rubber gasket. You want to just kind of feel around it, make sure that it's loose, make sure that it doesn't seem to have any wear or tear on it. If it does, you won't get a good seal. The other couple things you want to check, so let's go over the top of our lid. Remember, this is the Presto pressure canner, so it's going to be different possibly than yours, so make sure that you read your instructions. This is a dial gauge. Here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we do 10 pounds of pressure. It all is dependent on your altitude, so make sure that you check that out. There's a couple things you want to check and make sure they're functioning. There is a little, I don't know, what would you call that, release valve that's right here. You want to make sure that it's loose. You probably can't see that, but it is loose. You can hear it jangling around. The other thing is the pressure spout. You want to make sure, and this is going to look funny, but you want to make sure to hold up and that you can see light through it. You want to make sure there's nothing that's obstructing this spout. Okay, so that's everything with our lid. Oh, there is on mine, there is a little marker here with a little arrow that goes along with the handle, and it shows you how to put that on. So we're going to fill our canner with our 8 jars. My canner holds 9 pints, which is what these are. These are not quarts, of course. This, you can do anything. I think what I've read before is as long as you have 3 jars or more, it might be 2. I have to research that again. I never have that few. It'd be kind of a waste of, the gas that's used, because we have gas stove here and the energy. All right, so you want to kind of place them a little bit apart. Let's see if I can show you. I don't know if I can. I have to pick up my computer. Whee! All right. Let's show you here. Okay, so we've got our 8 jars in there. Okay. Now, you line up. On the handle is an arrow, and on the lid is an arrow. So you line up the arrows, and you see the handles are uneven. You line up the arrows and you just scoot it to where the handles are together. So of course now this is a cold canner, not under pressure. What we're going to do is do medium heat. You can do higher. I wouldn't recommend it. The reason is because your pressure becomes unstable. So I found that if you raise the temperature more slowly, that it doesn't, once you get to 10 pounds pressure, you have to hold it there for a certain amount of time. For pints of chicken or any meat, it's 75 minutes, so an hour and 15 minutes. For quarts, it's 90 minutes. So during that time period, you need to stay pretty close to that 10-pound pressure. You can go a little over, but you never, ever, ever want to go under. So if you raise that temperature of inside the pot too fast, it's really hard to keep it at that stable pressure. That's what I found anyway. So now we wait until it starts spewing steam. So out of the, what did I call that? Spout? Out of the steam spout. It's going to start spewing steam. It does take a little bit. Sometimes, especially a cold canner, it will take at least probably half an hour to get it up to temperature inside and for the steam to start escaping. So we will come back when it starts steaming. See you then. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see this. You might be able to. You see this steam coming out of here? So once this started with a steady stream, I timed 10 minutes. This is very important because it needs to get as much air as possible out of there. So I timed 10 minutes and then I put my weight on. This comes with your canner. Okay, so I've let it steam for 10 minutes and then the weight is going to go on. Now we're going to watch. This gauge should pop up. Sometimes I have to help it a little. Let's see. There it goes. Popped right up. It's not a gauge, sorry. The stopper? I don't know what you would call it. Anyway, so now we are going to watch the gauge. We're going to watch it. It's at 0 right now. It's going to come up to 10, and once it gets to 10, I start my 75-minute timer, and I try to keep it at that 10 pressure. Most of the time I have to lower my heat because if you just let it, it'll go. Now, if anybody's worried about, I know some people get worried about it's going to explode. In these modern canners, that's very, very, very unlikely. So back here, and I forgot to show you when I was showing you the lid, back here is a black stopper. What this will do is if the pressure gets too high, it'll pop. So you won't have it explode, it'll just pop, and of course everything inside is going to be, your glass jars are probably going to break, there's going to be a big mess. So it's very important to keep an eye on your pressure. So we will be back when we're up to pressure and I'll show you. Okay everyone, it has been 75 minutes. So let me try to pull you over here so I can show you. I need better camera setup, I think. Okay, so here if you can see the gauge, it's a little over 10 pounds pressure, so it's around 11. I have turned the heat off and now we just wait. Don't try to cool it down too quickly. Don't take off your pressure gauge. Oh goodness. Your weighted stopper. You want to make sure that the pressure comes all the way down to 0 and that this, I need to figure out the technical terms for these. This stopper goes down before you open it. So we'll come back and I'll show you when that happens. Okay everyone, it's time. So our gauge has gone down to 0. Our little knobby here has gone down. So we can now take off the weight. I always put it in my drawer, otherwise I will lose it. And we're going to go ahead and open this up. So just like you put it on, you're going to turn the knob or turn the lid. And I always kind of open it up away from me because of course it is very hot. Okay, so I open it, kind of set it askew for just a second. Let me get a towel. Never put your hot jars, never put your hot jars directly on a counter or a surface. You always want to have a towel of some sort. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and remove the lid altogether. Set it on that chair. This is a canning tool you would get in a canning kit, or you can find them on Amazon just to be able to lift the jars out. So let me get one of these. Looks wonderful. I'm not going to tip it because you don't want to tip it. Sometimes that will cause issues. But can you see it bubbling there? Okay. This always smells so good in here. Oh, we've got some siphoning. That just means some of the contents of the jars got out in the water. Not hearing any pops of the seals yet, but hopefully soon. See if I can pull you over. Last time I did this, we froze, so let's see if it'll work. Okay, there they are. All bubbling away. It's a very good sign. With the bubbles, getting all that air out of there. And good morning, Graceful Crew. All right, so it's been several hours, and so we are just about done with our canning of our chicken. I just wanted to show you the result. So all 8 jars have sealed, yay! And the way that you know that is that here, I'll come closer. There's a little, what do you call it? Like a bump right here that when it pops down, you know that it's sealed. So these are all sealed, and I wanted to show you why it's called ugly chicken. That looks delicious, doesn't it? But do you see how the liquid fills all the way up? So it creates its own juices, which makes it delicious. All right, well, that's it. All that's left is for me to remove the bands, and so you see the lid is tightly on there. You want to make sure when you're done, you leave them out on your counter for at least 12 hours. So we'll do that. We'll write on the top and store them away. Okay. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help you. So good luck in all your canning. See you later.